Hello, and welcome back to Context Flash Game Unit. Now, the screen we've been working on, this little white box, believe it or not, is not actually the only room we have to work with. So what we're going to do is we're going to stop working on the char layer for today, so we're just going to lock it here. And we're going to create a new layer. It's going to be a temporary layer, and we're just going to call it Boundaries. Okay? We're going to lock the ground unit as well. Now, while in the Boundaries layer, let's just draw... a black box works. And we're going to draw it as long as we can. Go. Perfect. Now we're going to take our black box, and we're just going to push it to the edge of the screen. Now if you watch the bottom bar here, see how it expanded? So now if I scroll over, this is as far as I can go. If I move the box, I can now go much further. Just keep doing this until the screen stops expanding. There we go. Now if I go show all, we have way more room to work with. Now we're going to do the same to the next side. Going to draw a box. This won't be faster. Beautiful. And move it over. And now we have the boundary there. While there's also a vertical boundary, we're not going to be using that, as this platformer will only be going left and right. Now we're going to lock our boundaries layer and unlock our ground layer. If we go show frame, we can now start adding onto our ground. Now we can't directly add onto ground just because we're on the ground layer. We have to actually enter the ground movie clip, move to where we want to draw, and then draw it now. Flash works in movie clips, and our character is set to intersect with the ground movie clip. If we're not in the ground movie clip, there'll be no intersection, and we'll fall right through them. As an example, I'll draw another box outside of the movie clip, so we can see. If I test the game, and I try jumping on the box outside of the movie clip, we fall right through. If I reload the game, and go over to this one over here, we can easily fall right onto it, and we stay. Now since this box down here is a little yucky of a color, we're going to go and replace it with a different texture. Enter its movie clip, select it, and take note of its dimensions. If you want to change them, make sure that they are unlinked, and change them to nice numbers. So, that looks good. Down. Beautiful. 550 by 100. Now find an image online, and we're going to open it in Photoshop. Now that we're in Photoshop, grab the crop tool, click, and then go to Unconstrained and Size and Resolution. Set everything to pixels, and enter the numbers we figured out before. 550 by 100. Okay. And now, Photoshop is nice enough to crop it to our desired size. If we hit check mark, there we go. Save as, and make sure you save it as something different. Save it as ground 1. Now if we go back to Flash, enter the ground movie clip again, delete the box we created, go to File, Import, and Import to Stage, we can now select ground 1, and move it to where we'd like it, which is in the same place. Now if we test the game, our ground box looks a lot nicer, and still works just as normal. From here on out, you can use ground by finding it in your library. If you want to make another, simply drag it onto the stage. Now to expand our layer, let's just delete this new one we created, enter the ground layer, delete this green box here, and from my library, I'll just pull in a new one. Now if they don't look directly next to each other, we can check their properties. Click on the first box, Go to Properties up here, and notice that we are at 0 and 12 on the X and Y. Over here, we're at 550.80 and 12.95. Now this is measuring from the top left corner. So this 550 is right, but we don't want this 0.8. There we go. And this 0.95, we're just going to turn to a simple 12. Now if we go back, we can barely tell the difference in between the two blocks. This is a great way of expanding on old platforms and making large ones, but if you want to make a smaller platform, you'll have to go into Photoshop and make a smaller block. Now while you could try doing cropping and changing and scaling in Flash, it usually doesn't work out too well, as Flash isn't made for that. What we can do is select this box here, and with this, we can do simple rotations, and we can do scaling, but as you can see, it scales the textures, meaning that these will not match up or look the same. Now you guys are encouraged to make your platform now, and design the course that you would like, first do it on paper, and then proceed to build it in Flash. I'm just going to leave it with a straight course, because this is mostly going to be concept-based. Do note that our VCAM is only designed to work for the X-axis, so if you have platforms that go up or down, you may run into problems. Now while we can fix those, you will need a different code. In tomorrow's video, we'll get on getting our actual character in, as well as we'll start looking at power-ups.